We want stories.
Yay! Hey everyone! Welcome to Untapped, the storytelling hour here at the Wildlies Brewing Company. Give yourselves a round of applause. Coming up to see some more stories. Hey, welcome back. All right, I'm your host Anson Chan, and we have some great stories for you tonight. Later on, we're going to see Beau Danner. Yay! Miguel Sutedjo, right? Sutedjo, dang it! I'm so close. Derin Hota. But first, we have an amazing story coming to you by the one, the only, Christos, everybody. Give it for Christos.
Hello, I'm here to humble expectations. My name is Christos, like if Christ had a cereal. Alright, off to a good start. So my girlfriend is pregnant, which I just found out. Yeah. Hey, and when I find the son of a bitch who did it, I'll kill him. No, I'm kind of glad it's not mine, you know. My wife would be pissed. But anyway, my wife is pregnant though, so we have like a little half Greek, half Japanese baby that's growing, right? Which is cool, thank you, that's real. And like all the Japanese are super excited, and all the Greek people are very confused and gambling on the outcome of the baby. You know, but the thing is, like, you think that Japan is like sort of tolerant in a way when it comes to those things, because they like refer to the baby as a hafu, which is like it's like the most racist way to like say a positive thing, you know? It's like very like, imagine just being like talking about Stephen Curry all the time, like that mixed boy is really good. Yeah. Anyway, so I used to live in Japan. I met my wife in Japan. That's where you find a lot of them. And the thing is, like, in Japan, I'm considered morbidly obese, right? And her grandma has a huge problem with that. So we go to visit her, and we're like, Obachan, which is Japanese for grandma. Sorry, we can't come more often. The tickets are so expensive. And she's like, oh, yes, because you need the 2-seat on the airplane. So I'm fat, but I'm not 2 seats on an airplane fat, you know? And Japan's all about customizing your order, right? And there's like a big bowl and a small bowl when we take her out to dinner. And she's sitting across from me and she's like, you should get the big bowl because of you big boy, man. So I get the small bowl just to prove her wrong. But I wanted that big bowl the whole time. And she's like always roasting me, right? But she doesn't understand like the trials and tribulation that I went through in her country to like understand the true darkness of things, right? And there was a certain point where I was living over there and I was a salary man. You guys know what a salary man is? Yeah. So like just imagine me like in a Japanese company, like everyone is Japanese and then they're all in like suits with white shirts and everything. And I'm over there with like a fun pink shirt, like the only white guy there under 60 and not like escaping some sort of murder from the 80s. You know? And like I was working there and word got out that I was a really good drinker, right? Like everyone just was inviting me to go out to drink. Like I would be out in, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and someone would come up to my table and just be like, Christos, nomimasen ka, ne? You know, and I'd be like, okay, sure, like, let's go. People I wouldn't even know, like from other floors, right? And this was early on in my career. And this was like the foundation that I was building was in this Japanese like hierarchy where you have no choice but to say yes. If like someone more senior is like, come drinking with me, right? I end up going drinking with people I don't even know, and they always want to keep up with me because they're my senpai, right? So senpai is like higher than me, and I'm 23 years old, Greek, from a long line of alcoholics, and just from like a physiological way, I can drink more than these people. And they're keeping up, and it's helping my career. You know? So I'm out to drinks, and like at a certain point, like the most senior guy will get all like butt hurt that I'm out drinking him, and he'll like drink so much that he's like sprawled on the table, and he's like, Christmas, I hate my wife. I'm like, what? Yoshi-san, tell me more. And then he would divulge all the secrets. I'd learn about cuckold like situations. Like there's a whole level of depravity that I was learning about. And then it would be like coming into the office the next day, and they would act like nothing happened the night before, right? Like I would learn the deepest, darkest secrets. Some of them dressed like women in their free time, you know, but had families. And it was very encouraging to see these people like go into a meeting and just like carry that weight while I was like, yo, I'm good, son. You know? And so we're having these meetings, right? And Japan is all about meetings. Like you'll have a meeting before the meeting to discuss the meeting that you're anticipating. And then after that meeting is done, you'll have a meeting to undo all of the things that you agreed upon in the meeting prior. And you know, my Japanese is good enough where like casual conversation, like I totally know what's going on. But sometimes when we're talking about giant budgets, like they're saying numbers and I'm like, oh, what? Okay, like whatever. So sometimes I'm agreeing to stuff that I don't know that I'm agreeing to. And I'm fucking up things left and right. You know, like we were a massive tech company and I somehow made them invest in a commercial that made no sense for the Japanese market. So they do these, in Japan they have these taxis where there's a little TV, right? That's where they pioneered it in Japan. And now the taxis have it here. But they would just play like these commercials in there. So I end up coming up with like this crazy proposal. It loses the company millions of dollars, sees very bad success metrics, and in the meeting, the guy responsible for like appointing me on the thing just goes, it's fine. Because he told me that he dresses like a lady and he goes into the night. So to keep that secret, like he would just like wink at me and be like, whatever. So I had all this Jeffrey Epstein style blackmail. And I just kept getting promoted.
Oh my God.
And like fucking shit up constantly. I was just constantly getting promoted. And I was just hitting it off with so many people that when I went to America, I was like 5 levels higher than someone my age of like 25 at the time, like should be. And they were like, you're such an inspiration to people in this company. Like, why don't you come and like speak to these new hires that we have and these like interns, and then you could show them how you can advance. And then like one of the kids like comes up, he's like fresh out of like school, and he's like, so what would you say is like the secret to your advancement? And I'd be like, drinking. You should drink every time someone invites you to drink, but never drink more than them. And then like the HR person like called me over after and was like, hey, like you can't tell people that, like that's not good. And then I was like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to work in Japan again. Where they appreciate that, you know? So I go and I work back over there and I become like closer, and now I'm like a higher level, so people treat me as equals. And there's this big sex tourism in Japan to Thailand, where like a lot of dormant, depraved like antics just take place in Thailand, right? So these guys like go for the weekend, and I get invited by an American guy and 2 Japanese guys to go on this trip to Thailand. So we go to Thailand, I'm like, I want to pet tigers, I want to ride elephants, like all that stuff, you know, where you post a picture and then someone comments like, you know they drugged those tigers, you're a piece of shit. And I was like, yeah, I know they drugged the tiger, but like, I have a picture of the tiger, do you? You know, so we're over there in Thailand, and I find out about this kidnapping service, okay? It's this insane kidnapping service where super hot girls will come kidnap you in like bikinis and stuff. and they'll like, they'll put their hair in like ponytails through like a ski mask. It's actually kind of cute. And so I was like, oh, I totally want to do this, and we're gonna prank my friend Greg. We're not gonna tell him that this is happening, right? So we go into what is known as a tuk-tuk. So a tuk-tuk is a vehicle of extreme danger. It's a motorcycle operated by a man who has as many teeth as I have rings on. And he just wants to connect with you because he thinks like everyone in, that's like under 40 is like a famous person, right? Like, because if you're over 40 in Thailand, as a white person, like you're looking for like a creepy situation. If you're under, they're like, what are you doing here? So we're in the tuk-tuk, right? And the tuk-tuk will take you not where you ask to go, but where they think you should go. So we get in the tuk-tuk, and the guy is just like, you fuck boy? And we're like, we're fuck boys. Yeah, we are fuck boys. Like, let's go. And he's like, you fuck boy? And we're like, yeah, man. Okay, cool. He brings us to a gay bar. And across from that gay bar is a place called Dr. Blowjob. Look it up. It's a real place. It's probably closed down at this point because you can only hide in plain sight for so long. And we're over at Dr. Blowjob, right, across the street, and Greg's like, I really want to go to this place. And we're like, Greg, we know you really want to go to this place. They go over there, and at Dr. Blowjob, they line up 2 lines of women. One women in red, and the other women in white, right? And the women in red look pretty good. The women in white don't look as good. And then the maitre d' goes, so the women in red are like 10,000 baht, but the women in white are 5,000. And so you're left having to make a decision of financial impact between 2 women, and like the women in white know that they're women in white, you know what I mean? Like, it's a sad misogynist situation. So we get creeped out by it. We're like, all right, we're gonna go. Like, hopefully this kidnapping will occur soon. And Greg's like, no, I'm gonna stay. So we like exit, and Greg's like over there, like walking us out to like, be like, so what are you guys gonna do? I'm gonna stick around here. And in pulls up a van, like a Sprinter van. Those they seat like 12 people, right? Out comes a bunch of super hot Thai women in bikinis. And they got the ponytails, everything is super cool. And me and Atticus, who's my other friend who's there, and then Yoshi, we were like, what the hell is going on? And we're pretending to like not know what's going on. And like Greg starts screaming. He's like, what's happening? So they take bags and throw them over our heads and bring them into the thing. And then Greg's just like watching all of this happen, freaking out. And then he runs off. And we're like in the van, and like they take the sacks off our head. They're like laughing, like these women are super cute, charming, whatever. They're like, why are you guys like so sad? And we're like, well, like Greg just like left us. Like, he witnessed what he thought was a real kidnapping, and he just like dipped and didn't ask questions, right? So we're in there like kind of depressed, and we're like, okay, like where are you guys taking us? And like, oh, you're going to the dungeon. And we're like, haha, very funny. We're like, they bring us to a dungeon. There's a real dungeon, and it turns out it's a BDSM situation, right? And we're like, oh my god, this is creepy. I have no choice but to participate in the BDSM actions, okay? They're like, that. No, it's not an option. You paid for this. And I was like, I clearly didn't read the fine print. And they were like, it wasn't even fine print. Like, why would you get kidnapped? Like, I was like, oh, we thought it'd be funny. They're like, you're the first people that we ever thought just did this for a joke. Like, this is Thailand, dude. What are you doing? So we go, and I have to pick this woman. Her name is Peachy. She's my dominatrix for the evening. And she starts entertaining interesting ideas, like putting something in my asshole or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm not really into that. Like, maybe we could just do like a rub and tug and we could just leave. Like, is that cool? And she's like, no, that's not what we do here. So she starts pouring candle wax on me, chains me to the ceiling, right? And I'm completely naked at that point. And I'm chained up at the ceiling, and my friend Atticus, he's like over there with like some, other person. And I'm like, I hope he's having more fun than me, And I'm over there and she's like, you've been a bad boy. I'm gonna bring another girl here to punish you. And I was like, I honestly thought I was very cooperative. I don't understand what's going on here. And I hear chains rattling in the distance. And I'm like, oh God, it's like a chain dominatrix, And in comes in on all fours my friend Atticus, who is completely naked. And he just starts laughing at me. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, get me out of this. And he was like, dude, you're uncircumcised? And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, get me out of this, get me out of this. And then in the distance, we just hear shouting, fuck boy, fuck boy. And in comes in the guy who was our tuk-tuk driver, who was apparently in on the whole thing as part of the kidnapping to put us in the location to be kidnapped outside of Dr. Blowjob. He orchestrated the whole thing. And in behind him, I hear someone talking on what I think is the phone, coming in and saying, I think I found him, like everything's okay, I think I found them. And in walks in Greg, talking on FaceTime with my mother. And Greg immediately goes, oh my God, I gotta hang up. And I hear my mom's voice go, what's wrong? What's happening? What's going on? What's going on? Tell me. And he's like, I can't tell you. And like he like shifts around in a panic, and my mom sees in the view me chained up over there with my friend on all fours at the side. And then my mom starts crying in the wheelchair. And she's like, I knew I shouldn't have let you go to Thailand. Oh my God. And then a week later, I met my wife. Thanks, guys. I'm
Woo! Oh my God.
Give it up for your host.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God. Oh man. Give it for Christos one more time. Yeah. The most interesting that happened to me in Thailand was I was in the tsunami. Not nearly as much sexy, kinky stuff. Oh, it's not a joke, it actually happened. Anyway, coming next to the stage is Derin Hota. Sorry to bring you all down. That's a story for another storyteller. Give for Derin Hota.
So, small world, my story's also about being kidnapped and put in a devious stuff.
Yay!
Obviously, when Anson asked me about this, I felt like a bit weird about doing it because my story is not really in a strange land necessarily because it's about the time I spent living in Turkey. And for context, my whole family is Turkish, and I went there every summer growing up, so I felt a little weird about like if I really fit the criteria for this particular thing. But then I thought about it a little bit, and I realized that a lot of my experience in Turkey is kind of like, when you're watching a movie and they've done a CGI of a person, and it's like the closer they get to it being almost perfect, the more the differences are highlighted and the more weirded out you get by it. And I feel like that is a similar situation to what I have when I'm in Turkey, because I am Turkish, both my parents are Turkish, I speak Turkish, but I was born in America. I spent a lot of time here, and I only lived in Turkey for an extended period of time when I was very young, and then a few years ago for about 4 to 5 months. And it creates this weird thing where whenever I live in Turkey and I'm talking with people, I will inevitably get some version of this comment whenever I'm talking with them in Turkish. It will be, wow, your Turkish is quite good. which is a dagger in my heart every time because they felt the need to comment on it. They're like, clearly something's off. They're like, I could understand the words that you said. So, full marks, 10 out of 10. And it's just, I don't know, it creates this weird thing. Like I have a very big family, and when I was younger, I had trouble just like speaking in general. Like one of the reasons I don't speak Turkish fluently is when I was growing up, my parents were teaching me both languages, and the way that they always described it was I would choose a language and then completely forget the other one. So if I was speaking English, I would never speak Turkish in any capacity, and if I started speaking Turkish, I would completely forget every English word I'd ever learned. And eventually, my parents just went, okay, we're in America, he's gonna have to learn English, and then we'll figure out Turkish at some other point in the future. And so I still remember I was in Turkey once when I was very young, and we were at the beach, and I needed a towel. So I went to my aunt with my family there, and I asked, and in Turkish, towel is havlu, is the word for it. And I asked for a havlu. And I know it doesn't sound like much saying it in context. 15 years later, my family still brings this up, that I made this like one error growing up. And it's this thing of like, it feels like this insurmountable wall, where it's just like that gap is always gonna be there. And I always feel it like when I'm in Turkey. And so, but at one point I figured like maybe this is just a time thing. Maybe if I spend more time there, get really kind of immersed in the world, in the language, only speak it, don't really have a safety net, that maybe, I can overcome this hurdle, as it were. Spoiler, I did not, but it did ease a little bit. But anyway, so I went there over the summer a few years ago after I graduated college and had some time off. And I did a lot of travel around Europe, but I wanted to start with kind of a long stretch in Turkey. And I went there, and it was kind of my first time as an adult really spending time in Istanbul. And beautiful city, highly recommend. It is a strange place, kind of once you're living there. For one, there are cats everywhere, like to a degree that like the way that New York has rats is Istanbul with cats.
Wow.
Like they are everywhere. There are parks dedicated just for cats. Like you could walk into a park and there are thousands just all over the place. There was a grocery store near my aunt's house where I was staying when I was living there, and they had kind of huge glass windows that you could look through. And every time I walked past, there was always one of the shopping carts that was put on the ground, and inevitably there was always a cat sleeping there, which I think a brilliant marketing tactic, because every time there's just a crowd of people looking at this adorable little kitten or cat just sleeping there, their hearts would be warm. They said, "Oh, I do need fries actually." But yeah, it was a very interesting time. One thing that I remember very vividly was I got very immersed in kind of like the Turkish like cultural way of doing things. And one thing that I became very cognizant of, which I thought was hilarious, was my family. In Turkish families, secrets aren't really a thing. So, like, anytime anything happens in your life, every member of your family will know about it here instantly. Like, there's so many, it's truly an insane amount of WhatsApp groups with, like, so many like, so it'll be like, just in my nuclear family, there's, like, my whole family. There's me and my dad, me and my mom, me and my dad and my mom, me and my sister, me and my mom and my sister, my dad and my sister, and, like, sometimes a random cousin, like an ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend of my sister's will be in a WhatsApp group that's, like, dead and gone forever now. And it's just this wasteland of stuff. So secrets aren't really a thing, but the illusion of secrets is still there. So to kind of give you an example, my cousin a few years ago went through a divorce with his wife, which, for the best, honestly, looking back, but at the moment it was kind of like a big event and everyone's sad about it. And the whole family knows that the divorce happened, and it was, super messy and the breakup happened. But in the coming weeks and months afterwards, I'll never forget my mom, when she was telling me about it. It basically went like, okay, here's the full story. And then here's the part of the story that Bora, my cousin, thinks the whole family knows. And then this is the part of the story that you can actually talk to him about. So it became this thing where I had a call with him like right after it happened, and I couldn't talk about the divorce. And so I was just like, how's life? And he was like, good. And I was like, okay. And then it just like, we ended the call. And it felt psychotic, where I'm like, I just want to check if you're okay, but there's this whole like incredibly intricate breakdown of cultural norms here that I'm like bound to or whatever. Turkey is a super weird thing. Also, another thing I dealt with, like, I've only very recently started seeing a therapist. Like, very good, highly recommend for everybody. But the reason for that is that there's this thing in Turkey, especially for Turkish men, where it's like you have to kind of, whenever you approach a problem in life, you just kind of grit your teeth and then endure it. And it was, I don't know, it's like, and I see a lot of my family and cousins doing it where, you know, I have the philosophy where I think everyone should see a therapist. Like, I think it's just a good life philosophy to have kind of a professional third party you can talk to. But there's some people and like friends and people I know in Turkey where I'm like, you need to see this. Like, there's stuff here that you can't just power through and deal with. But I don't know, there's this weird kind of philosophy about how you can approach life there. And I think there's a lot of it where it's kind of like going through it singularly, but then there's also a very weird kind of community that I found while I was living there. Like, I feel like there's a relationship with people in the service industry that is very different from what I see in America. Like, whenever I went out with my family to a restaurant that they go to a lot, like, they know everyone there, you know, like the owner will come by, like all of the waiters will stop by and like check in, and then my uncle knows about their kids, and you know, like one's applying for college and like wrote a recommendation. My favorite is that one of my cousins got married recently, and one of his groomsmen was his barber because they were so close. And I think it's a very beautiful approach to it, and there's a lot of like respect and honor given to that field. And I don't know, it created this weird thing where I felt like growing up, when I would go there over the summers and just kind of see family and be there on vacation, you only saw kind of the vacation mode of Turkey, you know, like all the beautiful beaches, and then, you know, catching up with family and seeing them. And then when I was there for a longer period of time, it became this thing where, you know, you notice the cracks that are there and the flaws, but then you also notice, you know, positive aspects of it that I hadn't really considered until that moment. And I don't know, I still have the weird kind of other feeling sometimes when I'm there, but I think I've made my peace that you know, that's going to be true, but that doesn't mean I can't value and find importance in that part of my life, and you know, try and make an effort to have it more involved. And I think I'm at 10, so I will call it there.
Woo! Give it for Derin Hota, everybody. Looking at the clock like, can I just leave now?
I don't want to go over, okay? I didn't want to talk about.
Man, I prefer if you go over. One more time for Derin, everybody. Similar story too. Whenever I went to China, like, I didn't speak a lot of Chinese, but I would like bargain. I knew how to bargain fluently, so I needed to know a few words and like do that walk away thing and I'm begging at you. And so I was very good at all that. And then like I was with a native like Chinese person, like, they're American. They don't know any Chinese. After the deal was struck, like, why the fuck did you tell them that? And oh, really? And they said this in Chinese, I didn't understand them. And I was like, what did they say? What did they say? And he goes, oh. He said, but you look just like us. And I was like, yeah. Anyway, coming up next, we have Miguel Sutedjo. Miguel, everybody.
Hello. All right. My name is Miguel, and I am a musical theater writer and a musician in New York City. And for the longest time, this is what I've always wanted to do in my life, to make art, try to make it big in New York. So by all textbook definitions, I should feel some sort of fulfillment coming from my life right now, right? And yes, there is some. I'm not going to deny that. But I guess the metric that I'm judging my life against right now is that last year I was an English teacher in Taiwan. And so this all started when I was a junior in college. And my professor pulls me outside after class. He was like, well, you should look into this thing called the Fulbright Scholarship, made for nerds like you. He didn't say that, but I was like, Professor, is that the thing that it's like a really hoity-toity scholarship that you do if you want to be an English teacher or if you want to do research and it's just you all smart and stuff? And I was like, I want to be a musician, I'm a music guy. And he was like, I think given your profile, I think it would be a really great fit for the program. And to be fair, I was a music and international political economy double major with a Mandarin and English double minor, so it tracks on paper. And also a free all expense paid trip to wherever seemed pretty cool. So I ended up applying. And I remember getting the email that, I got it and I read it. And I remember the first thing that came to mind was, holy shit, I'm going to Taiwan for a year. And the second thing that came into mind was holy shit, I don't have to find a job just yet. Because that entire time during my senior year, all these people have been asking me, so what are you gonna do after graduation? And I was like, well, I've got some things, so that I'm sort of waiting on, but I'm gonna be a starving artist in New York City, and I'm gonna make musical theater and make a living off of jazz. And now I had this, other really cool thing that I was gonna be doing, but I still I lamented the fact that I wasn't gonna be chasing my dream in New York City right after graduation. And then late July rolled along, came out, I don't know the phrase, but it came around. And I said goodbye to my friends and family and all the people here in New York to go to Taiwan for a year. And I arrived in Taipei, which you can picture Taiwan. Taipei is right at the top. Taiwan, if you don't know, is an island off the coast of China. It is not China. Very, very staunch about that fact. The OG China, you may. But Taiwan's at the top of the island. It's an island the size of Maryland, around, I think it's 20 million people. And I was placed in Changhua County. And so if this is Taipei at the top, Changhua is right on the middle. Is this your east? I guess, it's my west, so it would be your east. And so I was right there in Changhua County, which is sort of right outside another big city called Taichung. And I was living in this small suburb called Yuanlin. And I was placed at a junior high school in Xizhou County, right amongst the guava fields, which was really, really cute, because a lot of my students would then give me guava as gifts and stuff. But it's super interesting, right? Because Taiwan actually has this bilingual initiative. They're trying to make Taiwan bilingual by 2030. It's not gonna happen. Even though they've been spending so much money into investing for blokes like me to come along and to teach their kids English. But it's so interesting because they have all this really robust education systems for English teaching specifically in Taiwan. And in the big cities, a lot of the kids speak really, really good English. But because I was in the guava fields, oh boy. No good. And it was so interesting because the people at my school, the administrators, were all I know you speak a little bit of Mandarin, but in Xizhou Junior High School, no you don't. You are a dumb American, and you only speak English. So to force the kids to only speak English to me. And so I knew I had to break this ice somehow. So I would always just whenever they would come around the hallways, I would say hey, and they would stare at me like a deer trapped in a headlight and be like, hello, teacher. And I would be like, okay, how are you today? And they would like be like, 听不懂, which means I don't understand. Or they would say, 我不会讲英文, which means I don't speak English. And you know, I would know what they were saying, but they had no idea. So I would be like, I would ask the questions, like, how are you? You know, how's your day going? And they would like look at me, very good, and then run away. The cutest things ever. The middle schoolers in Taiwan, it's 7th, 9th grade. But it was really great because I had a lot of flexibility with my curriculum. Some of the teachers over there, they were forced to teach from the textbook. But like they were pretty chill in what I taught at the school. So I decided one of my favorite lessons that I did was I adapted a picture book by Mo Willems called That Is Not a Good Idea into a puppet show. Hear me out. So the picture book follows this goose and this wolf, right? And the goose and wolf are walking, and the wolf's like, you should come over for dinner. And the goose says, yes. And all the little chicklets, all the little chicks come along, and they're like, that is not a good idea. And then the wolf's like, we should go make soup together in my kitchen. And the goose says, yes. And all the chicks are like, that is not a good idea. And then the wolf says, oh, you should look into my pot and see what's missing. And the goose says, yes. And all the chicks are like, that is not a good idea. And then the goose says, oh yes, something is missing. And the wolf says, what? And the goose says, you! And then takes the wolf, dumps him in the pot, and then the chicks and the goose eat the wolf soup. And it's so silly, it's so funny. We bought a like a huge plushy goose off of like whatever like Taiwanese like shipping website that we had, and like little finger puppets for the kids, and then we also had like a little wolf hand puppet that we had. We named the wolf Winston and the goose Gertie, and they're still in Taiwan, being used as teaching tools to this day. So cute. One of my favorite people all in Taiwan was actually the music teacher over there. His name was Jun Mao, and he was basically like my Taiwanese dad. He like fed me, took me to dinner. I like met his entire family. I would like board games with his kids. He actually just recently had like a newborn baby, so I would feed him like mushed banana. And it was like the cutest thing ever. But I really felt like I was taken care of, not only by Jun Mao, but by so many people in Taiwan, that in a way that you don't really feel taken care of in America. You know, you walk down your street and you're like, I don't know anyone. You don't want to know anyone. People are scary here. You walk down the street in Taiwan and it's like, yeah, you know, people just like sort of accept you as you are. You know, they'll say hi, they'll engage in conversation. It's a very community-driven place. And I will say, when I was in Taiwan, it was the most fulfilled that I ever felt in my life. Like I was, you know, teaching English and doing this thing that I felt really passionate about. And I was like doing all these other crazy things. Like I broke into the jazz scene over there. I was cycling all over the place. I wrote a 10-minute English musical for like this adaptation of the Mulan story, but not the Disney one, the epic poem for like these 5th graders. And so I was making all this cool art over there. And then the question is like, why did I come back, right? And ultimately, it was because I had a chip on my shoulder, right? I knew that I owed it to myself to try that original dream that I had, you know, to make it big in New York. I didn't want to live life knowing that I still had that to do, right? And you know, now that I'm here and I'm doing the thing and I'm, you know, trying to live my dream out, it's going all right, you know. But I think my dream shifted. It's not so much a dream of fame and fortune and like, you know, getting my stuff shown on the biggest stages, but it's really just a dream to live a good life where I can take care of the people around me, and to give my gifts wholeheartedly, and to live in community with others. And that's what I learned from Taiwan. And I'm at 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
Give it Miguel, everybody. You're right at 10. I like how everyone's looking down at that thing. When can I just be fucking done? They have up till 12 minutes or more if they so choose. But one more time for Miguel. So many geese. So many geese. To round us out, we have one more great story for all y'all. I'm very excited to announce the one, the only, Beau Danner. Beau Danner, get up here.
Right on, we got some people still here.
Yay!
All right, everything Christo said about Thailand is true. That place is fucking crazy. Okay? My story's not about Thailand. My story starts, so I'm in Shanghai airport, right? And I am freaking out, man, because I have no idea what I'm doing there or what I'm going to do. And I have this singular thought in my head. It's the very first time that I've ever had this thought, which really scares me. And it is, oh my God, my mother was right. And I think to myself, thank God I listened to my mother. Because I didn't know it yet, but I was gonna be there for 7 years. Not in the airport. Because I listened to her. In China, because I knew that somebody was coming there to pick me up. But to kind of help you guys understand how I got there, I think it's helpful to know, like, how did that even come to be? So, I'm an actor in LA. In LA. Okay, to be honest, I'm more of an aspiring actor in LA at that time. I'm a poor kid in his 20s with a theater degree. Okay? Okay, let's just be honest. All right. The most I've really done is some live sketch comedy and also being some extra work on like films and shit. Not going that great. And so I don't know a lot of people when I get to LA, but the very first group of people that I meet is this Asian American sketch comedy group. And these guys take me under their wing and we befriend each other. And after a while, they're like, hey, man, we need a token white guy for our show. And I'm like, that's me, bro. I'm white. Great, you're in. So I happenstance I moved to a new apartment, and coincidentally, I'm in the same building as one of the producers of the show. So we're hanging out all the time, and I'm in his kitchen, and his parents call, and he starts speaking a different language. And it's incredible. I'd never heard anything like this before. And I asked him afterwards, he goes, yeah, you know, I was born and raised in DC, but it was really, really important for my parents that I speak Chinese. I'm like, that was so cool. But what you said didn't sound like what I know. Like, what I know is like, it's like, and he's like, no, that's Cantonese, but that's really weird that you just said a sentence. Which is, and he's like, no, it's Mandarin. And I am hooked. And for a kid that like never learned Spanish, okay, I failed Spanish, I'm like, I'm gonna do this one. And I start telling everybody, like, I'm gonna learn Mandarin, baby. I'm doing it. And so I'm working at Countrywide Home Loans at the time, during the subprime mortgage time.
Yeah.
Right before the financial crisis. I'm sorry. And I hate my job. And my buddy, Kerry Rapport, he knows that I hate it. And he gifts me Mandarin on CD, like the Pimsleur CD, so that I can put it onto my iPod. Because I don't need my full brain to do this job, and I hate being there. So I spend every day on my commutes and every day at work going through 3 chapters, 30 minutes a lesson, and there's about 30 lessons. It's about 45 hours worth of Mandarin. And I do it like 3 or 4 times. I'm just doing it. And after a while, I think to myself, like, why am I killing myself trying to make it out here in LA? Because everybody that I tell is like, you're learning Mandarin? That is so cool. That's so amazing. I tell my dad, he's like, that's going to be a really important language to know if you do really well with that. And so I'm like, I've got a great idea. Okay? Why be in LA when I can kill it in China? Yes, I'm going to be the Stanislavski of China. All right? And if you guys don't know who Stanislavski is, he's this Russian dude that wrote a pretty influential book about 93 years ago called An Actor Prepares. It became the foundation for what is acting as we know it today, and which is like method acting, right? And I'm like, now remember, I've got 45 plus hours of Mandarin under my belt and a theater degree. So I'm feeling pretty confident. All right. So I tell everybody that I'm going to China. And by that time, I had made some friends and I had made some contacts to kind of figure out how to do this. And I reached out to some expat friends and they're like, no problem. All you got to do is get over here and you'll transfer over your tourist visa. Because remember, when you're going to China, this is not Thailand. You don't just show up and say, hi, I'm here to work. You need to have a visa, which means you also need to have a job which will sponsor you that visa. It's a big deal to do that, all right? So I talked to them and they're like, when you get here, you can just figure it out because they're hiring anybody right now. Like, truly, it's not gonna be a problem. So that's when my mom comes to me. She's like, well, you know, sweetie, I was talking to one of my friends at church and his son is in Korea teaching English there. And he went through an agency. Do you think maybe it'd be a good idea if you just, you know, showed up with a plan? And I'm like, ugh, moms. Am I right? Well, when I was in Shanghai freaking out, I was like, ooh yeah, thank God. So I'm in Shanghai and we're looking forward in time right now. I am so excited. I am so excited. I cannot believe that I've made this entire thing happen, right? I'm in Shanghai, in China, okay? And one of my very first days there, I get roped into a T-scan. You guys know what a T-scan is? Well, I'll tell you. It's when you look like a dumbass foreigner like myself, and you're in the French concession in Shanghai taking pictures, and a lovely group of students come up to you. One of them is very pretty, always, and like, hi, are you a foreigner? I'm like, oh my God, how did you know? And they're like, do you like tea? I'm like, I sure do now. Like, why don't you come with us to this tea house where they promptly extort you for about 10 times the amount of what the Lipton tea they're fucking serving you actually really costs, okay? But after a week in Shanghai and my training as a teacher, I am now qualified to go to my job in Ningbo, China. Ningbo is just south of Shanghai, a little tier 3 city. Probably none of you have ever really heard of it. Only 5 million people live there. Because in China, everything is so much bigger. I told that to my friend actually a while ago. I was like, yeah, only 5 million people live there. She goes, oh no, Beau, it's 9 million now. I was like, we need to get 4 million more people for this city. Oh my goodness. So I'm on my way there. And I've had an amazing time, except for the T-scan, in Shanghai with just the nightlife and the energy and just the excitement of being there. And then after like a week of the training, I'm on my way and I get out of the train and I'm like, oh shit, I'm in the Indianapolis of China. Oh, and I'm much less excited, but I'm undeterred because I'm there. And a lot of people ask me, like, why would you go to Ningbo? Why wouldn't you just go to, like, Beijing or Shanghai? I'm like, no, thank you very much. I am not there to just speak English with other expats and other foreigners. I'm going native, baby. So that's why I'm going to Ningbo. Small problem. Ningbo is just south of the Yangtze River, and they don't speak Mandarin. In the south of the Yangtze River, they speak Ningbo Hua. I didn't know that at the time. Most people speak Mandarin only as their second language in China. Also, I would learn that later. So I get there, and I am now a teacher, but I have not forgotten my dream. I am also there to do acting, baby. But there, in the very first day of class, I'm freaking out again. because these wonderful, little, lovely children are looking up at you, and you are fully responsible for these kids. There are 3 things that I never ever want to do again, okay? One is junior high. The second one is something that I can't think of at the moment. And the third is being a brand new teacher in China, because my friend said, this is not easy. This is a serious, serious job. And they're looking at you like, oh, hello, teacher. Please do not ruin my English future. And I'm like, have you heard of Stanislavski? Because I'm on a mission here. So after months go by, I finally do it, y'all. I am on set of my very first movie that is shooting in China, all right? And I get there, and the AD comes up to me, and he hands me the script and also a full dose of reality. Because I look at this script and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of Chinese characters. oh gosh, y'all sure do talk fast. And then another thing happens where he's like, hey, great, the foreigner's here. And it goes a little something like this. It's like, hey, 你是老外吗? It's like, oh, you're the foreigner. I'm like, yeah, that's me, I'm the foreigner. I'm like, no, I'm American. I am American. Actually, he's like, 但是你没有黄色头发那个蓝色眼睛啊. And I was like, no, I do not have blonde hair and blue eyes. I think you're thinking of Sweden. And so this happens over and over again on all the sets I go to. They're always like, yeah, you don't have blue eyes and blonde hair. And I'm like, no, again, Sweden. So I do the thing, and I realize, like, okay, I'm kind of out of my element. But I've got another chance a few months later to guest host on a local Ningbo television station. All right, they bring me in as the foreign correspondent, of course, okay? And I'm feeling really excited about this because everybody in my school is gonna see it. And so afterwards, everybody, I had come back to the school and I'm like, yeah, so like, what did you guys think? And my colleague, she goes like, yeah, it was kind of like, it was like, 鸡同鸭讲. 鸡同鸭讲 means, it's kind of like a chicken talking to a duck.
What?
I didn't need to look that up to know what she was talking about. I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. I really didn't understand as much as I had hoped. So I realized maybe my acting dreams were going to take a little bit more time. All right, so I really doubled down on just being the best teacher that I could be, because these kids are amazing. They're so sweet. One of the things that they do at my school is they would farm us out to they had a contract with one of the local public schools, right? And it was like a class double this size, like 30 kids in there. And again, they're looking at you like, don't ruin our English future, please. And we come to the lesson which I really hate because it's the adjective lesson. And this is the one where it's like pretty, handsome, tall, short, ugly, fat. And I'm like, oh, don't make me do this with these kids. And I'm doing the cards and I'm teaching these words as they go. And I get to the fat card. And everybody in class points to the fattest kid in the room. It's like, there he is! There's little Pangza! Pangza means fatty. Because in China, if you are a little overweight, your nickname is fatty. That's just what they call you. I am mortified, but I'm not prepared for what happens next. This little tubby boy, which by our standards is really, he's not at all, okay, he's gonna grow into it. He's gonna be fine. He stands up and he goes, that's right, I'm fatty, and then sits down with the proudest smile on his face. And I go, oh my God, that's wonderful. They just have a different sense of self here, and a different way of thinking about themselves, and a different way of communicating. And do I have time for just like one more?
Absolutely. Keep going.
This communication reminds me of a story, and I fucking love this story. because it was about these two, it was when I was living in Beijing, and it's these two older guys having a lunch break together. And he is describing to his friend this horrible story of this miscommunication with this German foreign guy about, he's like, he kept telling me that he wanted 11 of the things. So I come out to him like 1, 2, 3, and then 11. He goes, no. I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11. I'm like, yes, I've given you 11. See, the problem is, in China, we go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 10. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. So when he did this, he mistook him for like, oh, that's a whole, that's 10, so 11. So he's like, every time I give him 11, he's like, no, I don't want 11. I don't want, he's like, I want 6. He keeps telling me 11. And then his buddy next to him goes, those foreigners are so strange. And I love that story because I know that there's a German guy telling his family that he's like, I kept telling him 6, and he keeps giving me 11. And so this kind of encapsulates the incredible and wonderful experience that I got to have living in China, because I had always wanted to learn another language, live in another country, and understand another culture. And they gave me so much of that. And it really comes down to, I learned something really important, and that is, there is no such thing as normal. There's only common. Is it 6 or is it 11? It really depends on who you're asking. Thanks, you guys.
Yay! Well done. Give it up one more time for Beau Danner. Out to the Storytelling Hour Untapped. Give yourselves a round of applause. Give it one more time for Derin Hota. We got right. Miguel Sutedjo. And Christos, who had to flee the tap room. But guys, thank you so much for coming out. If you guys are hungry, I think they're still serving food over there. They're not?
They just closed down.
They just closed? Sorry, guys. You. But we're gonna change sets really quick for our improv 2 hours coming up, the indie improv special. So stick around. Thank you so much for coming out to see the stories.